correctly. All right. Welcome everybody to the premiere recording of Citizen Assembly Thunderdome podcast. Thank you all for joining me here. This is where we test ideas and hone debate skills. We've already done our welcomes and mic checks. I will move to the opening notes. I'm going to share my screen here.
Staci, could you make some of us co-hosts, please, so we can help with the management of the room?
You bet. Very good. Thank you for that reminder. I will start screen sharing again. Okay, we have started the recording. Welcome to Citizen Assembly Thunderdome, where we test ideas and hone debate skills in a real-life social political arena. This is held every Tuesday at 7 p.m. Central Time. Join us here.
Guys, can you please mute me? Because my smartphone is out.
Our meeting structure, we will have opening notes, introductions, presentation of our process and technology, first idea discussion and closing remarks. And then at 8 o'clock Central Time, we can stop the recording and continue discussion and after meeting networking and question and answers. Meeting open notes. 1, we maintain the right to freedom of speech. This does not include hate speech or threats of violence. Time limits may be imposed. Be ready to hear opposing opinions. Raised voices and swearing will result in removal from the meeting for a period of time chosen at the discretion of the group and/or the hosts. 2, write hand up in the chat if you wish to comment. Be mindful of everyone's time. You will have more than one chance to speak. We take turns speaking one person at a time. We do not interrupt except for quick interjections, and we let each other finish speaking. Your opinion matters here. Let's hear it. If you see a great opportunity for a hot debate, participants may call a hot debato, a 2-minute flash debate. Anyone can decline such debate. Scoring will be conducted by Cynthia, the impartial arbitrator. Rules will be read upon request. 5, we encourage side conversations in the chat to discuss points not relevant to the group and make connections. Use the chat. 6, we encourage you to use the Egora-ilp.org platform to publish your ideas so others can learn about them and rank them. Highly ranked ideas may be championed for legislation. It is a highly collaborative and creative space, and your participation in it will benefit all. 7, after introductions, including your name, location, and interests, someone presents an idea that has been written up, preferably in Egora, to facilitate copyleft. Criticism is cheap. What we want are better ideas. An imperfect idea always beats no idea. A good idea deserves to be developed in writing. We then measure the agreement with that idea among the participants. We measure the support for that idea in Egora among the participants. We open the floor to the exploration and deliberation of that idea, and we conclude with uninterrupted closing remarks by each participant. 8, at the conclusion of the meeting, the floor will be open for further discussion on any topic. 9, we need leaders. Help us grow. We need people who will take charge and organize more meetings. You can promote those meetings here, including breakout sessions. We have many opportunities for you to apply and develop your leadership skills. We will help you. We are here to empower one another. 10, essential information. To fully participate in our meetings, register for Egora at egora-ilp.org. Also in Egora, you will find information for our upcoming meetings. To stay connected, join our Facebook group, Citizen Assembly, at facebook.com/group/Citizen Assembly. Okay, introductions. Cynthia, would you mind bringing us through introductions, please?
It would be my absolute pleasure. Sherwin, would you like to introduce yourself to the group, please?
Hello, I'm Sherwin from Vancouver, Canada. What was I supposed to say? Okay, my interests, current interests revolving capitalism, democracy, and great to see you all.
So grateful to have you here, Sherwin. Thank you so much. Tommy, would you like to introduce yourself to the group, please?
You are muted, Tommy.
I know, I was trying to find the button on the iPhone, sorry. Yes, my name is Tommy, and I live in Indiana. My interest in this is basically regenerative political leadership and just being there to help make a change.
Thank you so much, Tommy. We are graced with the presence of the founder of Egora, all-round super duper guy and Ubermensch. Cezary, would you like to introduce yourself to the group, please?
Gee, making it difficult for me to top that. Cezary Jurewicz from USA. My main interest is ethics, animal liberation, economics, social and economic justice. Thank you.
Thank you. And to speak to what you said about the words, that's why they call me a velociraptor. Hisham, would you like to introduce yourself to the group, please?
Hi, my name is Hisham. Currently I am in Arlington, Virginia. The recent books that I have been reading are international economics. If you want to study any subject, I would recommend you purchasing a university book because it's more it covers every aspect and not just one opinion. I like to read about technology, how technology affects society, how technology affects our culture. And yeah, glad to be here.
I'm so happy you're here too. Ramses, would you like to introduce yourself to the group, please? Can somebody unmute Ramses, please?
She may be participating just as a listener.
Oh, okay. My apologies. Daniel, would you like to introduce yourself to the group, please?
Oh, sure. Hey, everyone. I'm Daniel E. Tweed. I'm a candidate for City Council in Thousand Oaks, California. I ran in 2018 and I got 1.5% of the vote. I ran in 2020. I got 3.5% of the vote. I'm going to run in 2022 and I'm going to use the quality proposition cuponomics system to get on the council this time. And it's great because AI is going to do it. I mean, we are on the verge of the transhumanist singularity and it's so friggin' exciting. I was just talking to Rusty Burridge, who does Radio Hydrogen, and we're going to do some great podcasting work. And oh my God, it's so great. Stay tuned. And I love you all. Thank you. Peace. How many fingers am I holding up?
Holy crap, you gotta love that freaking energy. Thanks, Daniel. Even I'm like, Kat, would you like to introduce yourself to the group, please?
Yeah, I'm not sure what to say. I'm Kat. I live in the UK now. I'm American and also Swedish.
Ooh, Kat, we can't hear you too well and we have feedback. Can you hear us?
Kat, are you finished?
I think Kat is still trying to get her equipment working, or maybe not. I think she gave up.
Oh, Kat, just shake your head if you quit. Now she's not even moving. I don't know what to do here. Okay, at the risk of being rude, I'm going to introduce myself. My name is Cynthia Leonard. I am very grateful to be here. I didn't end up spending as much time on my presentation as I had originally anticipated on spending on it, but I did manage to pass the occuplacer, so I'm very happy about that because I only have one class left before I graduate. I also wanted to speak to Hisham's point. In case you were wondering, we will be starting a book club that starts at 10 o'clock at night. And one of the books we read is, at this point in time, macroeconomics and microeconomics, as well as Socrates. We're getting ready to start the Republic. So if you would like to be part of that, that would be amazing. Or any of you who would like to be a part of that, that would be amazing. And bring books of your own so that we can, you know, think about stuff. Citizens Assembly Women on Sunday, Citizens Assembly Thunderdome on Tuesday night at 7. Don't miss it. Citizens Assembly Wednesday intro meeting with Cezary Jurewicz. Citizens Assembly leadership meeting on Thursday for all of your shiny faces, whoever chooses to be a leader here. And I think that's all of them, right? Yeah.
Sunday introductory meeting in the UK.
Sunday introductory meeting, which is not my meeting, but Cezary's meeting, and that is, it's early in the morning for people who are overseas who, you know, find 7 o'clock at night to be too late. So please do be encouraged to join either that meeting or my meeting or any of the meetings. And if you can't find a meeting, let us know and we'll help you start your own meeting. So I'm very grateful to be here. Daniel, so happy to see your energy, and I'm gonna tick a lock now. Staci, would you like to introduce yourself to the group, please?
I'm Staci Gustafson. I split my time between Northern Michigan and Southwest Texas. My interests are universal commonalities and community problem solving. My website is oneworld411.com, where I have what I believe is a very comprehensive platform for getting the power back to the people. So check it out for me, please. And so fabulous to have everybody here for the premiere recording of the Citizen Assembly Thunderdome podcast. Thank you so much. I'm going to share my screen again very quickly Cynthia, would you mind showing Egora just a hair before you do your presentation? Could I bother you for that? Oh, you're muted.
Some of you will be happy to know that my presentation is actually in Egora under 017. Oh, shoot. I wanted to get to the, sorry. All you got to do is Google it, and then you see the beautiful Colosseum-like building there, or Parthenon, depending on your perspective, where you can enter, where it says enter. And then it pulls up all of the nations. And I am going to go to my home screen, which is right here. You can see me there. And for anyone who's interested, if you click on this little thing here, you can support me for an officer of Egora, which would be awesome. This is where I keep all of the ideas that I either wrote or agree with. And to be perfectly honest, I just agree with most of them because I did not write them. But I am very grateful that someone was willing to do it for me. And there are 1 or 2 ideas in here that I actually took part of and made more something that I liked. Also, we have the users index here. All you have to do is punch in the first couple of letters of someone's name and hit the search button. And it will give you all of the people by that name that you can choose the one that you are looking for. Also, we have campaigns, which as you can, oh, I don't know why I'm not here, but there used to be, there used to be a list of candidates for the International Logic Party, just sort of to show everybody how to do it and what it looks like. For some reason, those names aren't on my thing, so I don't know what happened to them. And if you go to meetings, you can see down here where we have the Citizens Assemblies scheduled. And if you just open the link, you get the link to the Zoom meeting and everything. You don't even have to be on Facebook. You can access us through the site in and of itself. So I am very excited about that. Now, if I may start my presentation, unless someone can think of something that I missed.
Just to let you know, the reason you didn't see the list of candidates is because you have to put in the nation for which you want to see the candidates.
Mm.
And
Well,
then hit generate.
And there you go. Just like, oh, yes. Just to give you guys a little background on this, I've been having a lot of conversations lately about the Equal Rights Amendment, which is actually something that was proposed when I was a kid and still hasn't been made legal. And the more I thought about it, the more I just could not write something. So I wrote this. This is, of course, just my personal opinion, and I look forward to finding out what your worldview on what equality actually looks like is. Anyway, equality. When discussing the Equal Rights Amendment, ERA, the argument was thus: if we are all equals in the eyes of the law, we, as women, will lose our special protections against domestic violence and rape, as well as the exemption from the draft. Is it necessary to have special protections in an equal society? I will start by discussing the draft and/or selective service exemption. This was the most ridiculous of reasons, in my opinion, due to the implied perception of somehow being more deserving than another to not be obligated to defend one's own country simply because one is female. The draft, selective service, to me implies that we do not live in a free society. One should be able to choose if the governance under which they live is worth dying for, as opposed to being forced to fight to maintain and empower an idea they find foundationally flawed. However, if a draft there must be, there is no real reason at this moment in history that women should be exempt. It implies that men are somehow expendable for whatever purpose society deems fit. From my personal perspective, neither of my children is expendable, especially for the benefit of a small group of people who see resources in foreign lands that they can benefit from. Every war since World War II has been to this purpose primarily and draped in the flag to get the people to support their nefarious endeavors. To not have equality in the draft, selective service, is to doom our culture to continuing to perceive women as lesser members of society. The second, hold on. Okay. Domestic violence protection is a fallacy. Since there is a more severe punishment for assault than there is for domestic violence, as defined as being a pattern of abusive behavior used by one against another to gain or maintain control, to wait for a pattern to emerge is to allow for abuse to continue over time. Whereas a straight assault charge can carry a 10-year sentence for a felony assault and a 1-year sentence for a misdemeanor assault. I would say in a free and equal society, there is no reason for any act of violence, be it a one-time event or over a period of time. I think it is fair to conclude that in the same manner men do not want to be victims of violence, neither do women, and both should be addressed equally by the law. I will even go so far as to suggest it is these special protections which also enable society to perceive women as less than, thereby leading to the belief that women cannot be trusted, that we need to be protected, even from ourselves. When if the laws were applied equally, it would resolve much of what we are told we need to be protected from. And that's it. Questions, comments, objections? Yes, Stacy.
So where does this, I know this is a really big thing for you. So can you say where this is coming from?
Well, again, because of Citizens Assembly Women and Citizens Assembly Men Room and Citizens Assembly, like I've been having a lot of conversations with people about the Equal Rights Amendment and should it be enacted, should it not be enacted, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And I kind of agree with Lois on this point. No, there should be no Equal Rights Amendment because it implies that, you know, I should not have to have a piece of paper that tells me I'm an equal member of this society. And that is what ERA implies. If we both live under the same laws in what is supposed to be a free and just society, then a lot of those things are covered, in my opinion.
So Cynthia, you believe women should be on the front line as well?
Oh, absolutely, yes. If that's where they want to be, that's where they should be. If they are physically capable of being there, they can catch bullets just as well as a boy can.
how do you guys, I'd like to just go down the line then, if you guys don't mind. Cezary, how would you feel about being in battle with a woman beside you?
Oh, that's a complicated question. I, you know, I do want to speak first to the point that of the conversation that Cynthia and I were having actually earlier today when she wrote this idea. And the thing about the draft, well, first of all, it's a bad idea entirely. So maybe if we did have a draft for men and women, then we would have, and women I think are much less interested in being drafted than men. So I think if we treated everyone equally, then we would have a lot more opposition for the draft in general. So I think we should be completely eliminating that. It should be, if a society is not good enough for people to want to protect it, you know, just then it probably should get conquered or whatever. So if you can't pay people the wages to, you know, to save your society, whatever it takes to raise an army that's necessary, then your society is probably better off getting, you know, absorbed by another one. But you know, to answer your question, it's probably not as bad as anybody makes it seem. I suppose the other thing was that we talked about this before, but I think if you have, I think one of the main reasons why they don't have women in the military is because people would much more quickly realize how stupid the whole idea of going to war is. Because you would be like, well, well, I don't want this person to get shot. I think, yeah, men would be, I think, more protective of the women, and the better way to protect the women is just to avoid wars. You know, doing better diplomacy. Then you know, it's not just winning the battles; it's actually avoid the battles, avoiding the wars. So I think if men and women were serving side by side, people would be less inclined to even go to war. And the other thing is that people would realize that, like, wait a minute, why are we killing each other when we could be like dating, you know? Like, why should I be shooting at the people on the other side of the battlefield or whatever when we could actually be going out for drinks, dancing, and all other things. So I think that's why they isolate men, is because it creates a different social dynamic. Men don't think those thoughts if women are not in the game. But if women are on both sides of the battlefield, then people wouldn't be thinking about actually trying to kill each other as much, which is bad for the people who want to send people to war, but that's good for everybody else. Anyways, that's my thoughts.
Go ahead, Cynthia.
That doesn't exactly answer the question, though, Cezary. How would you feel? Like, would you trust a woman to stand next to you in a battle situation?
It depends with what. I mean, if we were, you know, I've been reading, no, excuse me, not reading. I've been watching all these YouTube videos of, like, the Roman Empire and how they used to fight and how the Romans fought, you know, in a line, heavy infantry, you know, fighting with shields and spears. Like, if it was in that situation, then no, I would not want a woman next to me. A woman would not be able to hold the line. But in the modern environment, it's different. So different considerations have to be made. Maybe the same conclusion would be achieved, but the considerations would be different.
Thank you very much. Very interesting points that I had not considered. I love that. Thank you. I do want to, it's going to be two questions. So, Cezary, how do you feel about being on the front lines of war?
Well, I was lucky enough to avoid it while I was in the service. I mean, I wanted to be out there, but I was stupid. But I mean, I wanted to see what it's like to shoot at people and be shot at. But I'm glad that my wish didn't come true, because that would have sucked.
Very interesting. Very interesting. I did not know that. Thank you. Tommy, so how would you feel about fighting next to a woman on the front lines?
Me, I personally don't have a problem with it. Just because of my background. I grew up around pretty tough, aggressive women that beat up guys. I ran around a lot of gangs and stuff. So I got this. Hold on, I got a call. Cancel that. Yeah, can you hear me still? Sorry about that. So I got to see. I got to literally date some of the toughest women, that beat up guys, and I've seen it since a young age. So, and my mom's pretty aggressive too, growing up around that. So I mean, the women can be as strong as guys can be, I believe. I mean, maybe not like the Romans, like what you call it, Cesary's in pictioning, but 'cause, they were pretty massive and everything, and so or even a lot of guys. But oh my gosh, sorry, my kids are blowing me up. So distracting me. I'm sorry. So yeah. So, but as far as shooting in the way modern warfare is, yeah, women are just as experts as men are. I mean, I've been in the military too, and I've got to be in units with women who are medics. They're not so much. I don't remember so much of women being an infantry. But as far as medics, the women I knew were more in the medical field. But that's because I was a medical unit though too as well. But I don't have oh my gosh, it's a big distraction. Sorry, trying to keep focused with this call coming in over and over. But oh my god, yeah. So yeah, I don't have a problem with being next to women in the front lines. Yeah, and I think women can take men depending on the size. If they keep them in their, there's women that are mixed martialists. Mixed martial artists. So I don't think there's any limits.
So you said you were in the Army. How did you feel? How do you feel now about fighting yourself on the front lines?
Well, back then there's a big, huge comparison and gap. You know what I mean? Because back then I was just a little bit different. I had a little bit of a psychotic issue, and so I was, I was in the military because of my ego and wanting, to go from special operations to SF as a medic, and I was just very radical for war and violence. So back then I had no problem with just slaughtering people. It didn't bother me. But I never got deployed though, just because I was in a lot of training for recon, and then as I got into this religious, first it was religious, is Christianity. And so I went through a transition, of a conscious awakening, and I lost that belief quickly and believed in a different way of approaching things to heal the world. And so now being in the front line, I totally disagree with it. I believe there's a lot more powerful, effective way to conquer the havoc in the world. And yeah, I don't believe in being in the front lines no more. I don't know if did that answer your question, or was that too narrow?
No, that was a beautiful answer. That was absolutely fascinating. I can't wait to hear more about what brought you from being really wanting to kill and then understanding or feeling differently. That's fascinating.
Real quick, I'll make it even more exaggerated. Growing up, I had a fascination in being a assassin or a hitman. I literally would brag about it so much that I would even when they ask you in class all the way through high school and all the way up to high school, even from elementary, they ask, what do you want to be when you grow up? I'd always say either a hitman or an assassin. And I was very serious. And I didn't know how crazy that sounded to people because I didn't think about it. And so from that to not believing in harming even a bug or anything, because I believe in, just not harming. Even though I eat plants, I say that as harm. But it's a different belief system though. But yeah, went from that radical to the opposite, I feel.
Wow, cannot wait to hear more about that. Thank you very much.
Yep.
Sherwin, 2 questions. How would you feel about being on the front lines fighting next to a woman? And how do you feel about fighting on the front lines?
Regarding the draft is about taking people's freedom away. I guess so. Doing it fairly kind of makes sense. But at the same time, if you're building a team, if we're thinking about the past, right, past wars, if you're picking a basketball team, you're unlikely to pick the women first. It's just, there's a physical difference. Back then the weapons heavy enough, you gotta be throwing grenades further. You probably want some other guy to do it. Yeah. But obviously I don't have any problem with it, that it should be done fairly. So back to how I would feel about it myself. If the government itself is doing it for a just reason, which sometimes happens, I guess it's justifiable to take a bit of people's freedom. I guess a few people's freedom way to do that. Going back to the original question, I guess having these equal rights laws, I think it's more about equality and opportunity, right? And I think we talked about this before too, Staci, the trifecta of freedom, fairness, and safety, that you really need the combination of the 3: freedom, fairness, and safety. And you don't, with the consideration of all 3 without the exclusion of any. So in the case where, you have the fairness of opportunities defined for women, not necessarily taking away the safety aspects in protection for the difference in physical capabilities between men and women. For domestic violence protection, it all makes sense to me. I don't think there's any exclusion for one versus the other. It's just like you need the combination. So I'll close up with a quote I think we all heard from a few good men at the end. The dude says, we're supposed to help people who can't help themselves, right? So yield the floor.
Thank you very much. Really good points. And I want to say that Sherwin and I have collaborated on an Egora idea that has to do with getting the unused and underused buildings available for use quickly as possible. We will be presenting that tomorrow night in the regular Egora introductory meeting. Cynthia, you have a comment?
Well, yes, because you and I have also had this conversation before, and I am curious to know what your thinking is now. Is it for or against? Like, what is your thinking, Staci?
You're asking me. Oh, for or against are you talking about the draft or women in military?
Women in the military, draft, selective service, equal rights amendment. I mean, do you agree with what I wrote, or do you have a contradiction to that, or?
I'm sorry, I would have to go back through the language to know whether I would support it or not. I was a little bit distracted. I'm so sorry. And I feel put on the spot. I guess I'm feeling about like you guys probably feel. How would I answer that? We've discussed this a number of times. I feel like I don't know whether women's emotions would really get in the way of decision making under extreme circumstances. And I know that's kind of a provocative thing to say, but I believe that could be so based on my own experience when I was, I'm postmenopausal now, but when going through menstrual syndromes, I would make some decisions and treat people in certain ways that I probably didn't understand until I was postmenopausal, that those things were not as strong as I was feeling at the time. So I do question whether that is something, maybe women can just be, say, hey, I need a few personal days. Or maybe that's, I think somebody said, maybe that's when women should be on the front lines. But as far as the draft, I'm still out on that. But I thank you very much for bringing up the idea. I'm still collecting data. I really would not want to be out on the front lines myself, but like Cezary said, if your country is worth it, absolutely, I'd be there.
Well, I think it's fair to say that everyone who's ever been on the front line didn't really want to be there. Just saying. But I would be, I didn't, my intention was not to put you on the spot. I really wanted to know what you thought, but I get how hard it is to host. So I'm very grateful for any time or attention you can give to it. I would be very interested to hear your thought process.
Okay, thanks. And I didn't mean to say I felt poorly put on the spot. I was just like, oh, I don't know what to say. Thank you. Sherwin, you have a comment?
Yeah, just from a societal perspective, that there's a reason why they leave the women in safe spots, because it helps rebuild the society after a war. So just thought I make that comment. I mean, it's not, in other words, the men's lives are worth less. You know, you can totally rebuild the society with less men.
Well, unless you, if I may respond to that, because I know that thinking. I've heard that thinking. I've talked to people with that kind of thinking, and yeah, their lives are expendable, but you know, we get to be the breeders, like, because once society needs to be rebuilt, like that involves us getting pregnant and having children, whether we want to do that or not, to rebuild society. And you know, legally, it's been an enforced perception, like, you know, anti-abortion legislation, things of that nature. So, you know, it's a catch-22. Like, everybody suffers, and nobody gets any benefit out of it except for the people that don't suffer, in my opinion.
Thank you, Cynthia. So we have not heard from Hisham yet. Hisham, do you have some answers for us about, would you want to be on the front line, or how do you feel about if you were on the front line, and would you want to, how do you feel about being on the front line next to a woman?
Okay, being in the front line next to a woman. Well, like Sherwin said, there are physical differences between men and women. So if I am, let's say, in an infantry unit, I think I would prefer that we would all be, you know, men out there, due to the actual physical difference between men and women. But if it was, you know, in another position, like in a position where your physical body isn't a factor in winning the battle, like, for example, if we are in a battleship, maybe it won't make a difference. If we are in Air Force or yeah, on a battleship, maybe I wouldn't feel much difference between men and women. Okay, to your second question, how do I feel being in the front line? Drafted or willingly just going there?
Both.
Both. Oh, drafted? No. If I would not want to be drafted. Like, if I did not volunteer, if I wasn't part of the military, I for sure don't want to be drafted. I will not have the will. I will not have the resolve. And if you don't, you know, I'm not like, you know, Cezary maybe kind of speak to this more, and Tommy, but I think if you don't have the will and the resolve and getting ready if something bad happens. I think you'll be just extremely afraid during the battlefield, and will not able to do anything. You'll be just running for your lives. You won't be able to fight or do anything if you don't have the resolve to fight. So drafted, no. And I think it's not. I'm thinking about it right now, and I don't know why would that policy even be pushed if people are now willing to fight. You're just sending them. It's just a waste of resources. I think you're giving them weapons, you're giving them resources, but they're not willing. I don't think they will be willing to use these resources to the best possible way. Okay, but if I did choose to go to battle, how would I feel about it? I would feel, I guess I would feel good, because I'm willing to go there. So I'm willing to die for this cause. So I think I would feel good about it. But I've heard stories of many people who, even historically, like I've read poetry that goes back thousands of years ago. And the poetry says that when it's a time of war, everyone is excited and they want to get glory. But when war starts happening and you see blood and death, you don't see any glory in this. You just, you start wondering, what did I get myself into? So, yeah, for now, my answer would be, yeah, if I have a cause, I want to die for it. But when the war actually comes, you never know. Your feelings will maybe change. Yeah.
Very wise. I like that viewpoint. Thank you very much. Daniel, what do you think? What does Daniel say?
Oh yeah, I can speak to that. Actually, I have to leave in about 5 minutes to pick up a food order. By the way, you ever heard of Urban Plates? They have a deal where you can get all their plates for $10 each. So I'm gonna go pick up a food order. But yeah, I mean, why do we let ourselves be put in the position of having to be cannon fodder for nationalist interests? This seems highly illogical. I think Gandhi had 500 different kinds of nonviolent resistance. We should exhaust all the possibilities of nonviolent resistance and underground resistance before we become cannon fodder for a nation state. I'm a transhumanist anarchist person, and I think this is the future for intelligent, rational civilization. And don't be brain screwed into some oligarchical fantasy of doing what the man tells you to do. Just question authority. Think for yourself. Okay, think about it. No warfare state, and no the war is the health of the state. That's what Randolph Bourne said. Research anarchist thinkers. Be surprised.
Thank you very much. Although I didn't hear a question or the answer to how you would feel about fighting next to a woman on the front line, but we'll just say Daniel would not be.
Well, I would be in the underground resistance, like the French had the French resistance. I would be in that. I mean, it's immoral to take a life, and unless you're defending your children or something, but you don't have to do it in a nationalistic, authoritarian way. We should all be our own James Bonds. Let's go find Mrs. James Bond and figure it out.
Thank you, and you look the part of the resistance tonight, Daniel. Ramses, are you interested in answering these questions? Are you participating now?
Definitely. Yeah, sure.
Okay, fabulous. Do you know the question?
Yeah. So I also heard Cynthia's narration for the idea. I totally agree with it. I support it. And yeah, to to answer the first question, Of course, I have no problem having a woman fight with me, next to me in the front lines. This definitely would reduce the chances where I get horny with other soldiers on the front line. So this keeps it, like kind of professional fight against China. And the second question is related to warfare itself. And here is the point. So of course, I'm against war, and I'm against any armed, fight between two countries. I'm not gonna fight and kill Chinese people just because Trudeau or today's Biden wants me to do so. However, there's a problem. So as far as I know, like for example, in Islamic culture and in the Holy Quran and all these literatures that is related to Islam, they have like another word for war, which can be translated as the hated one, So when you say the hated one, you mean war. And why it is called so is because nobody wants to get involved in that. Like when you get into war and when you kill people, we do not want to do that, but we are forced sometimes. So unfortunately, if this actually will help us defend Canada and keep Canada safe from the Chinese, then unfortunately I have to do that. And in that case, there shouldn't be discrimination based on gender. If you are gonna force me to go and fight, then you force other women to go and fight, then you force other men to go and fight as well. This is my opinion on the matter.
Thank you very, very much. It is 7:45, and I would like to ask Cynthia if you wanted to cover any other topic before we go to closing remarks and agreement and support of your idea.
I actually wrote this idea more to start a conversation. Like I'm really I hear a lot of, I think a lot about this. So I was really looking for altered perceptions and people to contradict me, and I'm grateful for. I mean, it wasn't really a contradiction, but I'm grateful for the alternate perceptions. Thank you very much. And if you could support it, or see, if you feel like you have reason to support it, then yes, I would encourage you to support it. And if you don't, well, then I guess there's not a whole lot I can do about that, is there? So very grateful. I'm done. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Cynthia. Cezary, you have your hand up?
Well, there's more to this idea, and I was hoping we would explore the part about the domestic abuse and violence, actually. And again, because the draft part, I think it's just a bad idea in general. I think we should just eliminate it. I think that's where the discussion should end, is ending it entirely. Although I think if you did have no draft, you would find a lot more men volunteering for the military than women. But and that kind of does go to demonstrate the fact that men are different from women. So it's probably not good to have something like an equal rights amendment, because men and women are not the same, and they have different needs. They operate differently, and they have different requirements for how to operate most effectively in society. So that would probably speak against the Equal Rights Amendment. But anyways, I'd love to focus the discussion on the domestic abuse, because I think that's a very important problem for us. It's war at home, right? Civil war.
Would you like to do that now?
Well, I mean, me say something about that personally? I don't know what to say about that yet.
Okay.
Well, I thought this meeting was an hour long. I didn't want to extend it unnecessarily. It's not like you're not going to have another meeting.
All right. Well, what we can do is let's go through the closing remarks, and we can open the floor after we stop the recording or we don't have to stop the recording. We can continue after our hour with that part of the discussion or another. All right. Would anybody like to move us through closing remarks? Cezary, go ahead.
Real quick, before we go into closing remarks, I'd love to hear Cynthia at least expound upon what she was saying in that domestic abuse portion of her idea. Cynthia, would you elaborate on that before?
Sure. Because as I was doing the research, I found out that domestic abuse is a lesser sentence than assault, and the assault charges are mandatory sentences, whereas domestic abuse are not. It's left up to the discretion of the judge. And I would say assault is freaking assault is freaking assault, and we should all be held to the same standard. And as soon as we are held to that standard, we can actually live in a free and equal society. But we have to get past this perception of, you know, women have to have special this, women need the you know, special accommodation. Like it's insane because, and I hate to keep going back to the military point, but it just illustrates what I'm trying to say so well. Like women and men, like there are men who should not be fighting in the military, and there are women who should not be fighting in the military. There are men and women both who should absolutely be fighting in the military. And until we get over this perception of women need to be protected and helped, and you know, it leads to the perception that women can't be trusted with their own bodies. And then the next thing you know, they're legislating your bodies, and it's just got to stop. It's just got to stop. Yes, Cezary.
So can you clarify how your position on that relates to the Equal Rights Amendment?
Oh, it was actually to the arguments to the Equal Rights Amendment. If the Equal Rights Amendment were to be enacted, women would lose what are considered at this point in time to be special protections. And I would say that those protections are a fallacy. Those protections are just to make us think like we're getting something special, but really we're being put on a lesser scale.
So that sounds like you're arguing in favor of the Equal Rights Amendment.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Well, I am arguing in favor of equal rights. We shouldn't need a piece of paper that says we have equal rights, but if that's what it takes, well, then so be it. Like if we as a society conclude that we can't be equal without some dopey piece of paper telling us that we're equal, well, then it will be as it must be.
Very interesting. Thank you. Ramses, did you want to address that? You said I'm shocked.
Oh yeah, so I don't support ERA. Like I support, you know, equality in general. And Cezary's point on that female operate in a very specific manner is different from men. So what about cisgender? What about for gender? What about bigender? What about genderless? What about, you know, like gender fluid? So I think each gender has their own way of, actually, each person has their own way of operation. We are different. Even if we are women, we are different, you know. So I think having like an amendment for each gender or for each type of humans is not gonna be, you know, like it doesn't make sense. And in that case, I support like rules and amendments that actually opens the right for equality among all people and at the same time reserves the right of special needs for everyone.
Yeah.
Thank you. Okay, closing arguments. Would anybody like to lead us through closing arguments? Cynthia?
Sure.
Thank you.
Just for clarity, I would support the ERA if it would get us to equality, but I think if we actually were to be living in a free and equal society, it would be completely unnecessary. Just to clarify my point. Again, Citizen Assembly Women on Saturday, Citizen Assembly Intro also on Saturday, Sunday for both of those. Wednesday, we have the introductory meeting. Thursday, we have the leadership meeting. Tuesday, we have the Thunderdome. I'm looking forward to my first hot tomato. And I'm very grateful for everyone who showed up. So much love from me to you. Please accept it and enjoy it and feel joy with me. Sherwin, would you like to close, give us some closing remarks, please?
I'm just trying to read up about the ERA. I'm not quite familiar with it, and I'm not sure what it addresses in terms of what is actually lacking in the Constitution that protects people's equal rights. So that's why it probably is hard for me to make any argument pro or against. I think the real issues may have already been addressed in that I believe that this, like maybe even back then, I know it took 100 years for women to actually get the vote in the US, which is a long time. And I guess we live in different times. I just don't see enough cases where, you have to forcibly in government or other institutions to make things more fair where things are not fair for both sexes. So that's my closing.
Thank you very much, Sherwin. What? The Thunderdome. Dome. Hassan, would you like to offer some closing remarks, please?
I would maybe repeat what Sherwin said. I need to do more reading on ERA and what you have also written. So yeah, I think I would leave that at that.
Well, thank you very much. I am very grateful, and I would look forward to any commentary you have. Ramses, would you like to offer some closing comments, please?
Sure. Thank you, guys. It was such a condensed meeting. Like, it was short, but it was condensed. And we discussed very interesting ideas. Thank you so much, Staci, for the great work. I tried to jump in like several times, but it sounds like you guys didn't hear me. And then I discovered I was muted by someone. But anyways, yeah. What I wanted to say is, you guys, when you say Thunderdome, it sounds to you like WWE. But actually what comes to my mind is Trump. You know, when Trump shows up in those campaigns and keeps doing this. So this is what comes to my mind. So anyways, thank you guys for the interesting meeting. I'm gonna stay for after discussion.
Thank you very much, Ramses. Oddly enough, that's exactly what he did with the WWE. Tommy, would you like to offer some closing remarks, please?
Sure. In context with this discussion, I would say, I believe in equal rights. Women and men should both, be able to be in the military, but I don't agree with drafting them. I believe in free will and freedom. That's it.
Thank you very much, Tommy. And now we have the founder of Egora, an all-around super duper guy. Cezary, would you like to offer some closing comments, please?
I'm thinking about this Equal Rights Amendment thing. I'm not a supporter of this. I think it should be a given that people are equal. But then again, just because it should be doesn't mean that there might be some point in a society's endurance that maybe it should. Maybe this is a necessary step before. Well, frankly, in the United States history and the Constitution, the whole Constitution needs to be rewritten. So maybe we should include an Equal Rights Amendment, and then a decade after that, just rewrite the Constitution from the scratch, or taking the good, leaving all the bad behind. So, because obviously there's a lot of unequal stuff in the rest of it, so they're still holding on to that. So yeah, I think we need actually a constitutional, what do they call it? A constitutional convention, writing a new document. That's probably more necessary than an Equal Rights Amendment. But yeah, overall, still, I think our laws do account for people not always being equal, and our laws are there to help them in some ways to kind of reach that equality, to reach their best level of functioning. So Equal Rights Amendment could prevent that. So anyways, I'm not in favor of this of the idea for the Equal Rights Amendment. And anyways, that's all I got. Thank you.
Thank you. And so very grateful, because if not for you, none of us would be here today. So kudos to you, sir. Staci, I hand the meeting back to you.
Thank you very, very much, Cynthia. Thank you for the presentation and the great discussion. And I want to say that I have changed my mind a lot about my notions about, first of all, I didn't know that men were really okay a lot of the time with going to war. I really thought everybody would be like, this is, I couldn't do that. And so in a way, it's heartening for me to hear that the men who go to war are not feeling as badly as I think they might be. And it's really good to hear that. And I also think that maybe it should be a meritocracy for the Army as well. When I hear people's generalized discussions about it, it seems like, well, I'm fine with whoever can do the job beside me. And so I would like to lessen some of my objections to women being on the front lines when there are hormonal issues, perhaps. I would tend towards maybe more of a meritocracy. And boy, we've discussed this kind of thing a couple of times, and it really takes this many people discussing it and bringing their comments together to get a really full picture. And I love the spectrum of humanity that we are looking at here that we can hear from. So thank you all very, very much for showing up. And I would like then to ask a show of hands, who agrees with the presentation now after all of our comments? We have.
Sorry, who agrees with what?
I don't know how much it.
And does anybody support this in their Egora profile? We have one. Well, it's relatively new. I know it would be tough for Cynthia to get supporters that quickly. All right. Thank you all very, very much. You know, we have other meetings coming up, and we'll be back here every Tuesday, and hopefully next time we'll remember to do a hot debate. That should be fun. So thank you all very much. And let's open the floor up to any discussion. Anybody have a topic that they'd like to discuss, or we can talk about networking?
Are we going to continue with the recording?
I think I will.
So what about the following? We can stop the recording and then start another recording for the post-meeting discussions. As it would be great if you can keep this at 1 hour, you know.
Excellent idea. I will do that.